Hello, my name is Jay LeRae, and I really want to tell you about how I met a Beatle. I have been a Beatles fan since about 2012, 2013-ish. It was right before middle school. Found the Beatles while I was watching that Cirque du Soleil Worlds Away movie. They feature a number from the Cirque du Soleil Beatles Love Show, the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds number, and I heard it and I was like, whoa, that sounds sick. I'm sure I'd heard the Beatles before, but I don't know. It was like really special. After the movie, I went down to my room in the basement and I started just Google searching the Beatles and YouTube searching the Beatles. And one of the first things that came up when I YouTube searched the Beatles was their old cartoon from the 60s. Horribly animated cartoon, very cute. Each cartoon features a song. And so I just started watching every episode. I don't know why I didn't just look up their albums, but I just started watching every episode of the old Beatles cartoon and listening to their songs. The second song I fell in love with was Anna from their Please Please Me album, which is a cover, but it's a great cover and I love it. Anyways, that's the story of how I found the Beatles right before middle school. Then everything I did in middle school revolved around the Beatles. Every art project, every paper, every book I read for a book report was a book about the Beatles or about a member of the Beatles or about another person in their story. I love the Beatles. They were my hyperfixation for about 6 years straight. And my family totally endorsed it. Both sides of my family really encouraged me to love the Beatles, and they bought me albums, they bought me all kinds of merch. Anything Beatles someone in my family found, it was bought and gifted to me for Christmas or birthday or whatever. So, I had the support to be a mega Beatles fan. At one point, I should try and find old pictures of my bedroom from back then, my childhood bedroom, because every inch of my walls, was covered in I ripped magazine pages out. I got posters. At one point, I had a Beatles clock hanging up in my room. Everything in my life revolved around loving the Beatles. And I was at the age where most people find their music, their band, who they love, and I happen to really love four dudes from Liverpool that did some shit or something. But this is not about my love for the Beatles. This is about me meeting one particular Beatle back in 2017. In Wichita, Kansas, at the Intrust Bank Arena, I had the pleasure of going on stage and getting my arms signed by Sir Paul McCartney. It's my party story. It's my brag. If there was ever a brag to have, this is the brag. If there was ever a brag where after I say it, I can see people be like, oh yeah, she can brag about that. Anyways, my story of meeting Paul McCartney begins on a day in November. I was in high school and I saw on social media that Paul McCartney was adding a bunch of US cities to his one-on-one tour schedule. I had known and seen that Paul McCartney would bring fans on stage in the past at past shows. He brought fans on stage to let them play with him. He brought fans on stage just to say hello or for their birthday or to sign them so they could get it tattooed, which is exactly what I wanted. Now, I had a family friend who was very important in my life who also loved the Beatles. And I called her at school, frantically, middle of the school day. Tickets just got announced. He's coming to the US. We have to go. I don't care what I have to do. I have to be there. She starts looking for tickets for me on the computer, and she calls me back and is like, here's the damage. Here's the ticket damage. And I tell you what, 70-some-odd-year-old classic rock star that has changed the music world many, many times. His shows aren't exactly cheap. They're not exactly as expensive as some other concert tickets, but it was quite a lot for a little 16-year-old. But I committed, and my family friend ended up grabbing the tickets, and I worked my butt off at my gas station pizza job To pay her back for my ticket. We got really good seats, middle of the floor. We weren't right in front of the stage, but we were right there in the front of the second section, right behind the first section from the stage. Once we had the tickets secured, I knew I needed to try at least. And so I told my family friend, my plan is to get on stage at this show. I was determined. However, I had many months before the concert, which went by at the speed of molasses. I remember having such a packed summer ahead of me that sophomore year of high school felt so long. I was going to New York City with the same family friend for the first time ever over spring break. So that was huge. That was another Beatles thing as well because Strawberry Fields, big. I was going to JRDA, Junior Roller Derby Association Champs, World Championships for the women's division in Loveland, Colorado. We were playing in Champs the first time ever. Big. Stressful. And then the last thing on the summer checklist was the Paul McCartney concert in July. So I had a lot ahead of me. I couldn't dwell too much on how much time was between me and the show. Anyways, time passes. I make it through school, surprisingly. And I went to JRDA championships with my team and we did amazing. And then comes time for the show. I end up staying with my family friend the night before and we make signs. I make a sign that says, please sign me. And she makes a sign that says, be her first tattoo. And we got little fake flowers and we covered the sign and all these flowers. And I knew I had to make the sign big enough so that it could be seen from where we were. Because I was nervous that we were in a spot where maybe we wouldn't get seen or I don't know. Anyways, we make our signs, go to sleep. I can't sleep. Of course I can't sleep. Falling asleep feels like the hardest task ever in the entire world. The hardest thing ever. Trying to fall asleep before seeing freaking Paul McCartney. Anyways, I end up falling asleep. I wake up very early. The concert is not until later that night. But we made the plan to drive early so that I could see Paul pull up to the stadium. Just to drive in. So we did that. We drove, it was a couple hours away, Wichita. We got to the stadium. We got good parking. We went to see where the entrance doors to the arena were for like special guests. And as we were doing that, we saw a group of people already behind a barricade. It was a good group of people and they had signs. So we went up to them and stood with them and I noticed that a lot of the signs said fans on the run. And I had no idea who the fans on the run were, but I will explain them later on in this story. Anyways, I stood next to them. Gosh, it was probably almost an hour. And then this big black SUV with a police entourage is coming down the street and the energy just rose so much. And I kind of like held my breath. So I was like, there's no way Paul McCartney's in that car right there and is about to pass me. Sure as shit. He comes around, window rolls down, he throws a wave, and everyone's, hi, Paul, welcome, hi. And I was so starstruck. Oh, I can't get emotional yet. Oh. I was starstruck. I was like, wow. Oh my goodness. I don't even think I screamed. I think maybe I waved. And this starstruck nervousness will come back again in this story. Anyways, he drives by, goes in, and that's that on that. I believe there were really expensive tickets you could pay for to be a part of Soundcheck. I did not pay for those. So we had some time to kill before we could go into the arena. I don't even remember any of that. I think I was so focused on doing whatever I had to do to try and get on stage. I was thinking of every plan in the book to make sure that it happened, you know? We pass some time, we get in the arena, we get to our seats. I loved them. I was very nervous about our seats, but I thought they were perfect because we could see the whole stage. There was only one real row in front of us and then a big space. So no one was gonna really block my view, which was so nice. We get to our seats, I'm taking pictures. Little 16-year-old me is taking it all in. And I was really surprised because the Intrust Bank Arena in Wichita that Paul played at was kind of small, like hockey event kind of arena. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy, but people started pouring in, you know, once all the doors were open, people were really getting in, sitting in their seats. The energy was rising, and it was cool because it wasn't, this is a little mean of me to say. I had seen Ringo Starr in concert about 3 years earlier at the Starlight Theater in Kansas City, and it was a lot of old people. And that's not bad, but it was a lot of elderly people. They did not get out of their seats. We sat. I remember sitting and watching Ringo Starr. But at the Paul McCartney concert, there was a wide range of people. Ages, everybody. You could tell there were grandparents, parents, and kids. 3 generations of Paul McCartney fans sitting together. It was just so cool to see. And I just felt I was getting so excited. The more people came in and the more people gathered, it was like, yes. Yes. As soon as smoke started to kind of fill the stage and it was getting closer to time, as the show is about to start, I just remember feeling nervous because I knew the whole thing was about to be over. Whether I was going to be on stage or not, I had that doomer mentality of like, great, this is about to start. But that means it's going to be over. That means it's going to be over soon. At the time when I was 17, I was a real weird perfectionist about lots of things. And in that state, I was still in such a perfectionist mindset of this, I just want this entire thing to be perfect. And I recognize that now as an adult, that I should have been much more laid back. But hey, I was a 17-year-old with a fucking goal, okay? Anyways, the show starts. We have our signs up for the first song or two, like just up, going. And then they made an announcement about only holding signs up in between songs. And so then in between songs, my family friend starts running into the aisle because we weren't too far from the left aisle. She would run into the aisle and she just had her sign up. The show goes on. The show is 3 hours long. By hour 2, even maybe 1.5, that doomer mentality started to take over a bit where I was like, well, it hasn't happened yet. I don't know if it's gonna happen. Well, then a little later, Paul announces they've got 3 songs left or so. Fuck, you know. I didn't know the layout of Paul McCartney concerts at all. They play the 3 songs, they leave stage. Heartbreak. Sad. Depression. Well, oh my goodness. They're coming back out on stage. Encore. Encore. Okay, cool. But if it hasn't happened yet, it's definitely not going to happen during the encore. Like, this is the end of the show, whatever. We're standing there. Our signs are down. He's playing a song. The band's playing a song. Our signs are down. All of a sudden, my family friend gets a tap on her shoulder. And this this man with an accent points at our signs and goes, "Are these yours? Are these your signs?" And we go, "Yes, they are. Yes, these are our signs." And he goes, "Follow me." Heart. Oh, follow you? Okay. He could have been a serial killer. He could have been a serial killer with an accent. I'd have followed him anywhere. We follow him. Little maze of people, and I'm looking around at the crowds and I'm like, there's no way this is happening. We follow him back to the left side wing of the stage. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is playing. Oh my God. I'm seeing these important songs from the side of the stage. There's another girl back there with her mom. She also has a sign. She had been polled before me, but we were both there. This Irish man, who I later learned, I believe, from my research, is Paul's tour manager. I recognized him later on when Paul McCartney did this talk show. I don't know if it was James Corden or Jimmy Fallon, but he did this talk show where they had a surprise Paul McCartney concert at a pub, and like Paul McCartney was hidden in the segment, and then the curtains open and the whole crowd gets surprised by a Paul McCartney concert. His tour manager was like a fake audience member that was like surprised to see Paul McCartney at this pub. Anyways, I recognized them a few years later and I was like, that's the guy. That's the guy that pulled us backstage. And we're back there. He asks all of us to get in a circle. So we do. and he says, here are the rules. And he sets out the rules. The rules are no quick movements, no lunging, no jumping, no flailing around, no crazy stuff. He says, it's going to be quick. You need to get in as many hugs as you can. I forget that fact. I don't do that. I get in one hug. He says, we have pens. We will, because we had brought our own Sharpies. I was ready. We brought our own Sharpies. He said, we're not using that. We have our own pens. You just stand there and soak it all in. He was definitely on our side because he was like, look, here it is. This is going to be the quickest thing ever, but the best moment in your life. Anyways, I go first. Paul announces, and I hear it. He says, he looks over for the cue to make sure the fans are ready. And then he goes, we've pulled some fans from the audience. And then he looks over and they tell us to start walking on stage. My feet don't work. Nothing wants to move. Nothing wants to, it's like the gravitational pull of Earth was upped 20 times. I couldn't move. And I feel a hand on my back, and it's my family friend, and she pushes me. She pushes me forward. I can't. He's there. He's right there. He's right there this entire time. Every day for the past 6 years, I've been thinking of this here. He's there. I start walking towards him, and I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. It was such a whirlwind. But I have a very photographic memory, kind of. And what I remember is walking up to him, saying hello. We were holding our signs, and he reads them on stage. Please be my first tattoo. Please sign me. He laughs, and he is so sweet, and he calls us up. Come on, get over here. And I walk up to the microphone. This is surreal thinking about this, playing it out like step by step. I walk up to the microphone, and he says, what's your name? Where are you from? And I say, and he says, all right, where do you want me to sign at? And I point right here. And he says, give me your arm. And he takes it and he holds it. And as he's doing it, I'm realizing what's going on. And I look over at the crowd and I go, I gave a little real cheesy smile. I go, everyone's clapping, everyone's cheering, and he gives me a hug. And I remember hugging him and thinking, whoa, the image is burned into my brain of hugging and pulling back. And then he calls my family friend over, does the same thing, asks her name, where she's from, where she wants to be signed. She actually has a Beatles tattoo of them, that album cover of Beatles for Sale, and she shows it to the audience. And everyone claps on the big screen. Everybody claps, and he signs right next to that tattoo. Perfect. Perfection. It's over. Done. We walk back off stage. A lot of fans that get pulled up get signed right here. So I just want to say, if you're watching this and you also have Paul McCartney's signature tattooed, hello. We have matching tattoos. That's so cool. Anyways, we walk off stage. The camera follows us all the way back to our seats. Now, I tell you what, walking back to our seats was also a rush. Everybody was looking at us with so much like happiness. We got back to our seats. The cameraman asked us some questions, like how we felt, how that experience was. I haven't seen that footage anywhere, and I dug for it, but I couldn't find it. Hopefully it ends up on a Paul McCartney documentary someday. Of his old age touring years. That would be really cool. We get back to our seats, and then the show starts again. He plays 2 or 3 more songs and then ends the show, and that's it. Walking around the arena after that concert was like being a full-fledged celebrity. People wanted to touch it. People wanted to just touch my arm. Kind of weird. My next task. So task 1 was getting the signature, right? Task 2, getting it tattooed within the next 48 hours, because it's just Sharpie on my arm at this point. I can't touch it. I don't want to sleep on it. I remember driving home, going to bed with my arm just, oh my gosh, I can't let anything happen to this. The next morning, we wake up. My family friend starts calling local tattoo shops. Well, guess what? Everybody's booked. Everybody within a 100-mile radius is booked up. I'm freaking out. I'm very nervous. Finally, we get a hold of a shop and they say, our artists are booked, but we have an apprentice who would be willing to do it if you guys are comfortable. Yes, we'll see you in an hour. We drive to the shop, fill out all the paperwork. I'm 17 at this time, so I did have to have my dad sign off on it, which was great because then he got to be there for my first tattoo, which was cool. I didn't realize I was getting my first tattoo until I was in the chair. And then I got really nervous because it just hadn't registered like this will still be a painful endeavor. So I'm sitting in the chair and this very sweet apprentice is like, are you ready? We can stop whenever you want. I just need you to hold as still as possible so I can get this to be as accurate as possible. I say, yes, go for it. It only hurt right down the middle, which was nice, just like on the vein. So the heart hurt a lot. And yes, Sir Paul McCartney put that heart there himself. The apprentice asked me, do you want me to do the heart? I do. Yes, I do want you to do the heart, please. It's perfect. It took maybe 45 minutes and I just love it. I just love it so much. It is my prized possession in every sense of the saying. I felt so special. I was going into my junior year of high school. So having a tattoo is like, yeah, I'm the baddie with a tattoo. People really noticed it when I did theater. I did The Wizard of Oz my senior year, and a parent after the show said, I didn't know Dorothy had ink. That's sick. Anyways, the next week after the show, I get a message from a woman, and she messaged me saying, hello. I was at the Paul McCartney show in Wichita last week with the Fans on the Run, and I'm a photographer. I took pictures of your experience on stage. Here are the photos for free. Congrats on this insane experience. And she sent me these perfect professional grade photos from the front row, like the very front of the audience. She sent me pictures of myself and Paul and the whole exchange that happened between us. And I felt so lucky. I also found out that the Fans on the Run are a thing, and she was a part of it, is a part of it. It's a group of fans that go to every single show they can. I don't know how they have the money, the time. They are there. They are a dedicated club of Paul McCartney super fans. I really wanted to tell this story now because at least on TikTok, and it's probably just because my TikTok is what I want it to be. My For You page was built brick by brick. I've been seeing more Beatles on TikTok and just Beatles stuff in general with the biopics coming out. There's just a lot of talk about the Beatles constant in my life, and I love them. And I am a prideful Beatles fan in the sense that I recognize who they are and what they did. I really want to talk about them because someday there will be no Beatles, there will be no music, there will be nothing. But right now, I live in the perfect timeline where I not only get to love the Beatles, but I get to share the Beatles and love the Beatles with everybody else. There are timelines without the Beatles. There are timelines that just have the Rolling Stones. That's my story. Oh, also some fun facts I learned while researching the one-on-one tour. The one-on-one tour in the US happened during the 50th year anniversary of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which was the first vinyl I bought for myself with my own money for my new record player I got when I was 14. That's very special. Also, the Kansas show was Paul McCartney's first appearance in Kansas, and it was the 50th show on the tour. Numbers are special in the Beatles story, and it's fun to have numbers be special in my story. That's my party story. That's the story of how I met a Beatle, the Beatle. I met the guy. And Paul, you're probably never gonna watch this, but I've now pursued a career in entertainment and I work on my music. I try to live my life a lot more positively because of you and how you've lived your life and how you've inspired people. And yeah, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. You're a cool cat. This was my first attempt at a story time YouTube video, so this was very fun. Thank you for watching me yap on another platform. I'll see you soon.